the condolences that have come out over the death of the butcher of Tehran. That's right, the President Raisi of Iran, who obviously died in that helicopter crash over the weekend. The United States on Monday offered its condolences over the death of Ebrahim Raisi, foreign minister, and the other members of their delegation. Again, this is someone who is known for brutally murdering hundreds of thousands of people, probably, in his regime. And look, I saw Franklin Graham post, and he's like, look, all loss of life, biblically, this is where we need to stand. We need to make sure we are praying for people, praying for people's families. And I can say, you know what? He's a pastor. That's sort of his gig. You don't necessarily expect that from the United States government.
That's right. And when you see a U.S. State Department official spokesperson putting out a press statement that is just 2 quick sentences. The United States expresses its official condolences for the death of Iranian President Ebrahim Raisi, foreign minister, and other members of the delegation in a helicopter crash in northwest Iran. Second sentence, as Iran selects a new president, we reaffirm our support for the Iranian people in their struggle for human rights and fundamental freedoms. How do you think the individual Iranian people who are struggling for human rights and fundamental freedoms feel about condolences being offered to the butcher of Tehran, Professor Hutchison?
I'm very confident that they feel very badly about this. And so while I will concede that humans will continue to debate whether Iran's late president, Ebrahim Raisi, was just like Karl Marx, for instance, and other ideologues, and while they will continue to ask themselves, was he simply an angry, odious, insufferable fantasist? I think it is clear that eternity will render a clear verdict on President Raisi. At the same time, though, it is clear beyond question that the American people should question the condolences offered by President Biden for a man known as the Butcher of Tehran. And so despite his cruel his record as a cruel murderer, the United States offered condolences for a man who was a brutal participant in the repression of the Iranian people for decades. So we're not talking about a one-off. We're not talking about a gunburst that killed innocent people.
Right.
We are talking about the systematic killing of Iranians. And I think at the end of the day, the European and American leaders have come up short because they have sided, if you will, with the Iranian regime.
Right. When you have the attacks on Israel, and then you have from Iran, and then you have the head of Iran, dying in a helicopter crash. You're right. They can't now say, oh, well, he was terrible. It was because, again, they've started siding, as you said, with that regime. And when that happens, as Will pointed out to me yesterday, he didn't get the name the Butcher of Tehran yesterday. This is a decades-long battle with him, including his own people, who, by the way, there was very split feelings, even within the country, which I'm sure that would happen, look, for any of our political leaders if they passed away. However, they are political leaders, regardless if you love or hate Joe Biden or love or hate Donald Trump. Their nickname doesn't infer the fact that they murdered hundreds of thousands of their own people. He's had that nickname now for decades.
Right. And I think one of the other things that frustrates me about the story, besides the condolences, besides seeing the deputy ambassador to the UN for the United States actually stand for a moment of silence for this man. But what does frustrate me is when you do see kind of the split narrative coming out of Iran, where you see reports of fireworks and celebrations, and you see people who have left Iran, that have defected, that are posting on social media how frustrated they are with this and how happy they are that he is no longer alive. But you see the American media showing the clips of what they're calling the faithful, the people in Iran, and not understanding, one, how Iran works, that propaganda is a real thing. And their news in Iran is state media.
Right.
So, of course, when you're seeing images of thousands of people, you have to take everything with a grain of salt. Now, yes, are there hardliners that love the repression of women, that love Sharia law? Yeah, I bet that they are pretty upset because they probably use Butcher of Tehran as a good thing. Yeah. But there are plenty of other people that are in that crowd that are there because they're forced to be. And yet our media will show these images, Professor Hutchison, as if this is just the truth, that he was a beloved leader in Iran, and not even question for a second where their source is. They're more upset about things coming out of the UK with the Princess of Wales in an Instagram post than they are with the imagery coming out of Iran that is most likely manipulated propaganda.
I think you're absolutely correct. And our media has been deficient in not accurately portraying the history of this brutal killer and his history. If we go back, for instance, to 2009 and 2010, there was the so-called Green Movement. There was the Twitter revolution. And what did the United States government do then? The Obama administration did very, very little in responding to the repression of the Iranian people. So I think at the end of the day, the American people should be very disappointed with respect to the response of the United States and with response to the European community. So can we ever look the brave women and men who are fighting for freedom in Iran in the eye again after sharing our condolences? Certainly, I am prepared to concede that we should be grateful that the American government did not send billions of dollars in lieu of flowers to the Iranian regime. But what the American government essentially did is it caved into terror.
No one, wishes that accidents happen, those kind of things. That's horrible. I think Franklin Graham put, all death can be, considered tragic, if you will, especially when you pray for people and their families. So I don't want to discount people like Franklin Graham, who are, again, they're pastors. That's their job. They go beyond U.S. government relations. But I don't want that coming out of the United States, official White House. I don't want that. That is egregious and a horrible offense. Who stood the moment of silence?
So it was the deputy UN ambassador. So it's our ambassador to the UN, the deputy. Though. Yeah, he stood for the moment of silence they were holding at the UN for Ebrahim Raisi.
Okay, I think we have that clip.
You want to set it up? Miller. Yeah, so this is a spokesperson for the State Department yesterday when questioned why they put out a condolences statement for the death of the Iranian president.
Exactly is official condolences.
It's a condolences on behalf of the United States government.
I'm not even sure why you're offering condolences if this guy was as bad as you say he was.
Look,
why? I mean,
because we regret any loss of life.
Aren't you sending contradictory messages?
Absolutely not.
Absolutely not. Harry, I want to get your thoughts on that.
Well, the Biden administration is a contradiction in action. It consistently contradicts itself. And so on one hand, Biden wants to be president of the United States, but on the other hand, apparently he wants to be pastor of the world.
Let's continue on. Take some phone calls. Anthony is calling from Pennsylvania on line 2. You're on the air.
Put me down in the category of terribly upset with this. I just can't. Well, I guess I can't believe they did it. But can you imagine if Trump did this? The media would be saying that Trump is cozying up to dictators.
Absolutely. I think, Anthony, you are spot on, which is whenever President Trump has said anything about some, let's say, world leaders, that maybe it's him being diplomatic, trying to make some moves, trying to make some negotiations happen. Maybe it isn't, just completely slamming the president of China, someone like that. Sure, they take it and they run with it. If this was that situation, of course, this would be a Democrat talking point that they would use for decades.
People can't forget that this regime funds terror. They are the biggest exporter of terror around the globe. When we release sanctions, they use that money not to make it better for their people, but to fund more terrorism. Hamas, Hezbollah, the Houthis, and around the world, they are funding terror. This would be similar to an official condolence when Gaddafi died. Just put it in that context. This was dictatorial, funding terrorism, and they're saying we offer official condolences to a terrorist leader. It makes no sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, I want you to help us right now. Sign that petition. We have a petition right now because you've obviously heard all of our support of Israel. We're unabashedly talking about the support of Israel, and we know that the ICC announced those arrest warrants. Well, you can be a part of over 500,000 people who have already signed that petition. We need more. We need your support. We need to be able to showcase the millions of people who are in support of Israel. Stand up today with us at the ACLJ. Go to aclj.org/sign, aclj.org/sign to do that. Or just go to aclj.org, play around, look at the incredible content. Professor Hutchinson writes some amazing content that's on there. So does the rest of our team. Go on there, spend time on there. Great resources. Obviously, if you need legal help, you can get that there as well. And we do this broadcast on the website as well each and every day.